Hello, listeners, and welcome to a brand new episode of Canadian SMB Small Business Podcast, where we bring you profound insights from the world's leading minds in finance and investment and other industries. This is Ryan Bennett, your host for a Small Business Podcast. In this episode, we're privileged to have with us Karl Nour, a trailblazer and thought leader in wealth management. He's the Chartered Investment Manager and Senior Wealth Advisor at Nour Private Wealth, and has carved an illustrious career by shifting gears from engineering to finance seamlessly. Today, we'll be navigating the realm of small businesses, the unique financial challenges they face, and how a bespoke approach can make all the difference. Buckle up as we embark on this financial expedition with Karl Nour. Welcome, listeners. I'm thrilled to welcome our esteemed guest today, Karl Nour. Karl, it's a genuine pleasure to have you join us on Canadian SME Small Business Podcast. How are you doing today?
Very good. Thank you for having me today. I'm excited for our conversation.
Me too. The honor is ours. So let's get right into it. As someone who has gracefully transitioned from engineering to wealth management, we're eager to hear about your unique journey and how your current role influences the direction of Nour Private Wealth.
It's been a tough but exciting journey after having the passion for engineering and studying for quite some time and tackling it. My calling was always in working with people and using my skill set in numbers, mathematics, in order to help find solutions. My background in engineering allowed me to be a bit more technical than others in my field. But with my family background, which is mainly entrepreneurs, and they had many businesses, and I had to be participating in my family's businesses, it grew the idea in my mind that, hey, perhaps I should be transitioning to a different sector. With the guidance of my family members, it was a right pivot for me. That entailed, obviously, further education. I still believe, even until today, every year I get a different designation, different education. And the idea is to always improve and grow as a person in order to enhance my client experience and what knowledge I can bring to the table along with my team. There's no one that knows everything out there. So the better you improve yourself, the better the end result would be to your client base. As for the firm, this allows us to partner up with different specialists in order to fill in the blanks of where we, perhaps there's gap in our skill set that we obviously always hope to, fulfill. With that being said, the whole team together, we're able to provide what we do provide today.
Okay, amazing. So, Karl, we're fascinated by how you built Nour Private Wealth to survey an array of clients. Could you tell us more about your services your firm offers, particular for small businesses?
Yes, I'm glad and I'm happy to. So most of the work that we do would be catered to high income, high net worth business owners as well, or doctors, dentists, lawyers, people that have their own practices. We do have the moms and pops and the typical families that are retired or close to retirement that we obviously help and we cater to. But where our skill set shines is in the more complicated sectors where you have a bit more of corporations, limited partnerships, you have multi-generational wealth, trust involvement. This is where we end up focusing on cash flow management, loans, family trust, succession planning, perhaps different partners with different firms, exit strategies. This is where we typically shine. Our day-to-day, it starts with when we meet certain client base, especially business owners. The vehicles of choice, I'd like to tell people, are not relevant in the beginning. They're means to an end. First and foremost is understanding your clients, their wants, their needs. And our responsibility is to identify cracks in their foundations or perhaps obstacles that they're not even aware of that they might face in 1, 3, 5 years down the line. By planning ahead, you're able to hopefully avoid a mistake because it's always less costly than having to fix it after the fact. So with that being said, obviously the services would be focused on financial planning, projections, succession planning. We work with estate lawyers, with actuaries when it comes to perhaps building private pensions for high income and business owners that could be separate than the company pensions. We could be working with lenders to help them facilitate perhaps liquidity for their businesses or their personal lives. So we don't have to, as I said earlier, we don't have to do everything ourselves, but we're in a position where we can facilitate their lives through our network and our expertise to help them accelerate their business progression and personal success as well.
Amazing. So you did touch upon this, but small businesses definitely have a different set of needs to large corporations. And we would love to gain just a little more insight into, from your experiences, on what these unique needs are.
So when someone starts with the seed round first, most people, they have great ideas. It doesn't mean it ends up being a great business. Now, obviously, we're not going to help with that. Where we come in is that, let's say you've pivoted to the point where your idea, you were able to do everything possible, and through your own success, you're able to grow it to a business. Most of the difficulty in the beginning is through that transition. Once you get to that transition, it's important to manage cash flow. Cash flow is key importance. Obviously, investing in other avenues is not important at this stage. You're looking at survivor, to be able to survive that chapter in your business and your career. So how can I grow my business enough to be able to pay myself, to be able to sustain this business model? That is key importance in the beginning. Most people that start off typically have a second or main job that they're funding, allowing them to grow their business. Once their business is large enough that they're able to pay themselves, they quit their initial 9-to-5 job and they expand their business to pay themselves and start hiring different employees. That point, it's important that that idea goes beyond you as a business owner, and the business is not reliant 100% on you. Hopefully you transition to a point where you are not the business and the business is able to survive. Along the way, what we're helping you with is making sure that you're not overspending in the business while you're identifying different opportunity sets to perhaps add technology ventures or perhaps different partners, that you're not overspending, or if you're not spending enough, we push to that, hey, you know what is the return on that investment? Should you invest in more technology in your business? So we'll act as your, for lack of better ideas, your own personal CFOs, where you're bouncing ideas back to what and giving our response is to giving back the guidance to say, hey, that might seem a good idea or not. The second step would be, as you transition from that, from perhaps a one-person company to hopefully 10, 20, 30, 40 people, as still at a small business, then you end up with a concern, hey, how can I retain talent? How can I attract talent? Am I providing a group benefits, group RSPs? Am I relying too heavily on one person where, God forbid something happens to that person, my business is affected for a quarter or two? Should there be a black swan event? Do I have the enough policies in place that allows enough cash flow for me to sustain? These are the type of things we help you solve through investments, cash flow, partnering up with the accountants, insurance to hedge against unforeseen risk. This is the step-by-step progression. So first and foremost, if I was to sum what I said, beginning cash flow is key important. Second is investing in your own business. And this is what we help, have the conversation with said clients. As you transition through this step, it's about risk management in that business and the survivability of that business. And this is where we can, start bringing in obviously the rest of the ideas that would complement.
Okay. So you've touched upon this, but navigating financial waters can be tricky, especially for small businesses, as you said. And you shared some of the common challenges they faced. How have you seen them evolve over time?
I've had the fortune to meet people that are extremely successful, and as well as occasionally when people have been successful in one or two businesses that their third venture wasn't as successful. Common ground is to persevere and be able to, if you see it through, that's when you have the biggest payout. But sometimes be cognizant enough to say, hey, perhaps things aren't meant to be, and be able to get out and exit and be able to have enough capital to allow for a new idea that you have. The common ground is planning. I may sound like a broken record, but truly planning. You have to plan for the unforeseen. Common key points that I've seen for successful ideas is the ability to partner up with different experts, not just us, but different professionals as well, that act as a sounding board for you. So helping you navigate cash flow, as I said, insurance needs, tax planning. I've noticed that a key common question that most people have is that focus at first is expanding the business. As I've mentioned, should be initially the key idea. But there's so much focus on, increasing your income by tenfolds or 20x without really identifying, hey, do I have the right structure that would mitigate some of the tax impact that I have on a business level and on a personal level? Most of the conversation that I have, especially with successful, small business owners, would be, hey, you know what? I spoke with my accountant and they recommend that I take out a salary or a dividend, or perhaps depending on the year. But there are far more ideas that go beyond the traditional salary or dividend that can help reduce that tax burden on a personal and corporate side. Some may be through, most of them are structures available from CRA. We all have to pay our dues, but they provided us with these strategies to be smart enough and utilize them to our advantage. By reducing those tax impacts, perhaps along the way, for your business, as I said, and for your personal needs, that would allow you to retain more capital at hand and invest back in your business to grow it further. So with that being said, we shouldn't just focus on, hey, how can I grow the income? But what can you retain from that growth of revenue that you have? And how can I protect it? Tax planning, insurance coverage, something goes wrong, how am I protected? Tax planning is not the responsibility of purely an accounting. What about the actuary? What about the financial planner? What about the lawyer? Do I have, just taking out money and contributing to my RSP and call it a tax plan? Or do I have my own private pension that could be saving me double the RSP contribution? What about if I have to flow otherwise taxable corporate dollars outside of the corporation? Do I have, is the government providing any credits today related to my business that allow me to invest in technology or to invest in hiring new people? Is this available to me? And the best thing I can recommend, speak to your professional, licensed, qualified professional that is able to guide you through that junction, and not just be focus on the short term. Focus on broaden out your picture a bit.
Okay, amazing. So your bespoke approach has surely set Nour Private Wealth apart. Can you elaborate on how your firm customizes its service to meet these specific needs?
Excellent question. So really, I have a process. Have had this process for excess of, I'd say, learned through a family member, my older brother, that's the founder of the firm where I joined more than a decade ago. We started the firm. We've moved from, a few companies. We set our own partnership, but our process has never changed. It hasn't changed because it has consistently worked in the best interest of our client base. We do not talk investments before the foundation is set. I may have said this before, investments are means to an end. They're never the end goal. No one invests for the sake of investing. Every person, though, has their own goals, trajectory, whether you're retiring and you'd like to go on spend $50,000 on vacations a year, or whether you want the $10 million house, or you're content with truly living in a cottage and just enjoying the scenery. Our job is first, and this is where we found success working alongside our trusted client base and who have been our back support, is by opening up the questions to say, hey, what can we do for you? Let's first start with these conversations. Tell me about you as a person. Tell me, what are your goals? What are your concerns today? Why are you taking on that meeting that we've set together? What are things that you'd like to achieve? What are things that you've perhaps have good experience with other professionals in the past that you'd like to see repeated or enhanced? Sometimes, what are things that you'd like to see improvement? Through that discovery phase that spans sometimes more than an hour, sometimes 2 hours, that is where you're able to identify and understand people's stories. The second point is that when we meet again, this is where we've spent our time doing our due diligence. This is where we reach out to our circle. We work with our accountants, actually, as I said before, lawyers, us as professionals in the investment fields, tax planning, succession, insurance, and we're able to uncover everything related to their own situation. This is where at least 90% of the work happens. Once we lay down the foundation and we present and we have this constant conversation, we talk, we not only provide solutions, but we also look to the next step. Mr. and Mrs. Klein, God forbid something happens to you. You have a successful business. What happens next? Is your son or daughter taking over? Is your spouse taking over? Is your partner that you've both set up the firm taking over? And if that is the case, do you have a partnership agreement? Who benefits from your share ownership? Does it go to your surviving kin, or does it go to that partner? Most often, and I don't have the exact statistics, but on the top of my mind, but most often from my experience, none of this conversation is ever had. People think that we all want to think of being optimistic is key, which is great, but things happen in life that are unforeseen. How can you protect everything you've worked hard for? And through these conversations that we have with these clients, we're able to help them set up to the transition, to the growth phase, to transferring this to your loved ones, your kids, your grandkids, and keeping that hard work success that you've worked decades perhaps to grow within what your ultimate goal with, whether you sell your business is one thing, whether you want to keep it to a loved one. So the key success is really attributed to these conversations, not because you've picked a stock that's successful versus other. It's all related to proper conversation and planning. That is the key pillar to our valued advice.
Wow, very insightful. So every small business owner dreams of scaling their venture. As you mentioned, they dream of bringing that business up and everything. So can you share how Nour Private Wealth aids them in this journey?
It's an excellent question. I think this question really sums up the totality of our conversation together. So it depends where you are. Truly, it depends where you are in business. If you have a trusted accountant, someone you cherish, we're happy to work with them. If you have a lawyer that is a family member or a friend or someone you work with, we're happy to work with them. What our responsibility would be is to make sure that you reach your end goal and target at the most disciplined approach possible. And where we can help you with is that depends on this, where you are in that cycle, we play different responsibilities based on where you are. So if you're starting up, you might need guidance in cash flow, bouncing up different ideas. Perhaps you need lending loans. We'll reach out to our network, the banks, the loans, separate lending facilities. As you scale up, as I said before, you're exposed to different risks. succession risks, partnership risks, risk in your business model, investing in your business, or have surplus where you need to invest in your holding company, operating company. You might be buying real estate for your business. You might be looking to hire an extra 5, 10 different employees. So how do you get that talent? We'll help you by identifying what are different opportunity sets that you can provide them. Obviously, alongside whether you need our extended network through the professional we bring in, or working alongside with your professionals. Our goal here is to make sure that when you leave this conversation at the end, of any conversation we have, you're more informed, more equipped, and we're able to uncover a few things that you didn't think that you needed or that might face you. So we call that alone a success. As to specifics, really is very much dependent on you. And obviously, if anyone's interested and like to chat, we're more than happy. I have my extended team that is different specialties based on what your needs are and where you are. We'll be able to provide you that guidance and at least open up the conversation.
All right, so we're reaching the end of our conversation. But before we wrap up, Karl, could you share your top tips to help small business owners succeed in managing their financial health and ensuring growth?
My top tip is I'd like to say that most people are overwhelmed when running their own businesses. I say that not as a judgment, I say that as a person that has been in this spot. When as you scale, you have different obstacles that the second you think you've reached the top of that mountain, you look up and you see there it continues and continues like Everest. What I'd like to say, my advice to you is take it step at a time. If you look back, you see where you came from and you look at the success that you've already achieved. Don't feel overwhelmed by tackling different topics. Just benefit from the resiliency and the success that you've already have that got you to that point. And where you feel that you've reached a plateau, lean on to people that are trusted with you, can rely on them, and listen to others. Sometimes we may trust certain people, maybe we don't know others, but by keeping an open mind to new ideas, you're able to expand and broaden out. So never worry about that. Hey, you'd be wasting someone's time, or you're too busy. Sometimes a 5 minute of a person that you don't know time may be that 5 minutes that changes the next chapter that you have to the better. So my main advice is that always keep an open mind. You've kept an open mind to start your business. You've kept an open mind to listen to good advice that you've had. There's ample of advice out there. Your main success as a business owner is where you can filter the noise from sound advice. Keep what you've had that made you successful, but don't forget that there's always things that will happen, and just be prepped for the unknown. And that the way you do that by working with the right profession. That's my truly last advice.
Well, I gotta say, all our listeners today definitely learned something. Definitely learned a lot from our conversation. So, Karl, is there anything else that you would like to add? And also, what's the best way for our listeners to get connected with you?
I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to have talked to you, Ryan, for Canadian SME, and for the listeners to have listened to us, perhaps benefited from some of the conversation. Obviously, it was very broad. We're more than happy to have a chat with anyone that's interested. You can reach us by phone call. We'll share the description, the phone numbers, our website, our emails. My team is able to answer anyone. Can be reached at, we'll add this at the end of the conversation, but phone number is 905-845-9090. If you look me up anywhere on Google, you'll find the website, you'll find emails, everything you need. Please don't feel hesitant to reach out thinking that you're burdening someone or that you're committed. We're here to answer questions. What you do with the information is up to you at the end of the day. Please take it to be a bit more informed. We're here to help you. If we're able to give you one or two ideas and then we, shake hands and part ways, we find this already, it's a success because we made a difference in people's lives. And that being said, I'd like to say again, thank you for the opportunity to have talked to you and for the listeners.
Well, I gotta say that opportunity was definitely our honor.
Thank you very much.
What an enriching session we've had today, filled with wisdom, practical strategies, and innovative ideas. A huge thank you to Karl Nour for gracing us with his insights. It's conversations like this that inspires us to learn and grow continuously. And before we wrap up, let's express our gratitude to our exclusive partners. Thank you to RBC, our banking partner, for providing the secure financial foundation we can always count on. To UPS, our shipping partner, for making our logistics challenges feel like a breeze. And to Xero, our accounting software partner, for keeping our numbers straight and our financials organized. I'm Ryan Bennett, thanking you for joining us on Canadian SME Small Business Podcast. Stay tuned for more enlightening conversations. Remember, the path to financial success is not a distant dream. It's right at your fingertips. Until next time, stay safe, stay inspired.